Hello, I'm Dr Jodi Richardson, and you're listening to Well, Hello Anxiety, a podcast where we end the struggle with anxiety and build our toolkit of practical skills to thrive. Hello, lovely listeners, and welcome to episode 52. What that means is that for one whole year, I have been releasing a weekly episode of Well, Hello Anxiety. And this is a podcast which, ironically, I was terribly anxious about starting. I had all sorts of thoughts about how I could get out of it after I'd publicly announced that it was something that I wanted. My mind did all the things your mind probably does when something feels hard and overwhelming. It was telling me all the ways that I could avoid. And I was able to observe those thoughts, and my mind was also coming up with a few plans as to what I could do to kind of get out of it. But because it was something that was really important and still is obviously very, very important to me, I was able to I was able to bring my anxiety with me. I was able to recognize it. I was able to notice it, recognize the kinds of thoughts that I was having as a result of that anxiety, and was able just to slowly but surely keep putting one foot in front of the other. And eventually, I hit record and loaded up the first episode. I didn't actually, my brilliant producer did that for me. And here we are, one whole year later, haven't missed a week. And I feel really proud of that because podcasting now for me feels much more fun and relaxing, whereas at the start it was anxiety provoking and terrifying. And so it's been a real lesson for me, as I know intellectually, that when we experience something, that's the way we help to reduce our anxiety and reduce our stress around it. We actually have to do it. And so in this anniversary episode, I really wanted to share with you a reflection on so much of what we've all learned over the past 12 months. And I'm really inspired by a question I was asked when I was a guest for somebody else recently. She said, "What are your hopes for this field? What are my hopes?" And it got me thinking about my hopes for you as a listener, whether you're listening for yourself or whether or not you're listening because somebody that you really care about struggles with anxiety, whether or not that's a child or a teen or a partner or a student. It really got me thinking, what is it that I hope for you to get out of these weekly episodes? And really, that's a nod to what I hope for this field in anxiety education and understanding for the world as a whole. I want to take a moment to let you know that you are part of a global audience for this podcast. Not only that, this podcast is the third place finalist in the Mumpreneur Awards, which I'm super proud about. We had the awards in 2022 in September in Sydney. The Mumpreneur Awards celebrate mums in businesses, big and small, and I'm talking enormous, right through to startup. And I fit somewhere in between. And this podcast in the inaugural Podcasting Award placed third. And that's something I'm extraordinarily proud about because when you are up for an opportunity like that to put yourself forward and put your work forward, it's anxiety provoking. There's a risk, obviously, of not placing, but I just had this sense of calm and confidence that no matter what happened, I'd be okay. It was a great experience. It was an opportunity to bring the podcast to the attention of more people, which means helping more people. And so I was really driven by my values and put my hat in the ring with the support of some amazing people and was just absolutely blown away to place third and to really, I guess, experience some real celebration of the last 12 months in that lovely evening as we all celebrated everybody's successes. So I thank you for listening. I thank you for being a part of this. And I really hope that as I share in this episode, just you and me, my hopes for you and what you're taking away from this, that it's a real reinforcement of so much of what you've learned. If you're new to the podcast, it might inspire you to maybe go back to episode 1. I wonder if I sound as nervous as I felt, and to really reflect on your journey with your own anxiety during our time together. So, big breath. So, here goes. So, one of the things that I really hope for you and everyone around you and around me is that we all have an understanding of our brain and anxiety and the role it plays. We have a part of our brain that is always on the lookout for cues in our environment of safety or danger. And so, understanding our brain is really important because anxiety can feel frightening, it can feel dangerous and overwhelming and something to run from. But when we have an understanding that our brain works really hard to keep us safe, I think it starts to peel back the curtain on what's happening and why we experience anxiety the way we do. I want you to understand that anxiety is a normal human emotion. It is one of so many. And it's normal to experience all emotions. And Dr. Mark Brackett wrote the book Permission to Feel. And that's something that I hope for you is that you feel you have permission to feel your anxiety and to feel any emotion that comes your way, knowing that when we allow ourselves to feel our emotions, they pass through us, even the good ones. Remember back to when you last felt amazing and we're really celebrating. It doesn't last. Even the good stuff doesn't last. And it's the same with our anxiety and the emotions that are unpleasant and that we deem to be negative. That if we have this willingness to feel them and experience them, they will pass much sooner than if we try to deny ourselves what we're feeling and put our feelings behind a damn wall. It's important to know in this vein too that it is not natural to be happy all the time. And yet, when we're not happy, we are always looking for ways to sort of return to that state. But I think this understanding and this acceptance that it's not natural to be happy all the time and that we can notice and name how we feel and add, and that's okay, to the end of that sentence, it's a really comfortable, powerful place to live our lives from. And we're less pushed around by the way we feel and more open to experiencing it, even if we don't like it, and then being able to move on. I'd really love for you to be able to understand your own anxiety. What are the triggers for you? What are some of the things in your personal life, in your professional life, in your environment that might trigger your anxiety? And what are some of the aspects of your lifestyle that might ramp it up? And I had such a privilege of connecting with so many beautiful guests, and I talked to two special guests about sleep, and I have more coming your way in that regard. A very special guest, Sarah Rusbatch, around the impact of alcohol on our stress and anxiety. We obviously know that coffee can make us feel more symptoms of anxiety, which can make us feel worse. And there are also, aspects of overwhelm and stress in our daily life that can really amplify our anxiety. And when we have an awareness and an understanding of what starts to make our anxiety feel worse, then we're in a much better position to be able to do something about any one or some of those things. I'd really love for you to be able to recognize it when it's first starting to show up. I was driving home today from school drop off and a car was tailgating. They were so close. I couldn't even see the number plate or the front bumper of the car. They were so close. And I immediately noticed my heart rate racing. My brain detected a threat. We had Dusty, our border collie. Well, I say we. Dusty and I were both in the car. He was in the back. And had she run into me, that would have caused him great distress, if not injury. And my brain had detected this threat, and I immediately sensed this change in my physiology. I was able to recognize that my heart was racing because I was experiencing this threat in that moment. My hope for you is that through listening over the last 12 months, that you are developing a really clear understanding of how it shows up for you. What sort of thoughts, what sort of feelings, what sort of sensations, how does it impact your behavior? Recognizing it is a really powerful step towards being able to do something meaningful about it. My hope for you is that you are building a willingness to sit with it, which isn't always easy. It's not fun to feel highly anxious, but what we do know is that when we really fight with it, it only makes it worse. We can recognize that we feel anxious and say, I'm feeling anxious, and that's okay. And just notice it and name it. Notice that we don't feel great in that moment, but also holding lightly the idea that in time it will pass, like all emotions do. My hope for you is also that you have a toolkit of skills and that you're really building that toolkit so that you can draw on what you need when you'd really like to start to move anxiety to its rightful place, to the background, a bit like a radio playing in the background where eventually you don't really even notice. And I really want you also to understand why the tools that I've been sharing with you are so powerful. I've shared so many. I've talked a lot about exercise. I've shared with you dropping anchor in the FACE acronym. I've talked to you about present moment awareness. We know that when we're anxious, we so often find our minds reflecting on something that's happened or really fast forwarding into the future. And that when we can bring the spotlight of our attention back into the present moment, we're able to minimize the threats detected by those mindful, or should I say, mind wandering reflections, bring ourselves back into the present moment where we can ground ourselves and we can show our brains that we are safe in the here and the now. We've talked about breathing, and Dr. Libby talked about really extending that exhale, which really helps to lower the heart rate and show the brain and the body that it's okay to settle down and return to a lovely, calm, restful operation of the nervous system. I've talked about diffusion, putting some distance between you and what you're thinking. I was a worrywart. I'm sure you have had your moments as well, or people that you know and love have. And being told not to worry about something isn't helpful. What's helpful is observing that we're worrying, maybe putting something in front of our worry, like, I notice I'm having the thought that things are going to turn out wrong, or I notice I'm having the thought that I'm not going to get that job I threw my hat in the ring for. And also asking if, when we're observing a thought that we're having, asking if it's helpful. And when we realize it's not helpful, returning our attention back to what we can do that's helpful in that moment. We can't get rid of anxiety. I want you to remember that, and that anyone who promises to help you rid yourself of your anxiety is making false promises. It's not something we can rid ourselves of. It's a protective, instinctive emotion. We need it. And my hope for you is that you're able to recognize when your anxiety is really alerting you to a danger or a risk or a threat that puts you in danger and puts your safety at risk, versus when your anxiety is showing up around something that's important or something that's just going to help you to stretch your comfort zone a little, and to be able to really recognize the difference between those two. We know that in the same way that if our anxiety monster was at one end and we're at the other end of a tug of war with a big thick rope, that it would be exhausting and it would be futile, and we would not have our attention available to us or our energy or our efforts to focus on anything else. When we struggle with our anxiety, the research shows this too, it only makes our anxiety worse. Are you struggling with your anxiety? Are you fighting with it? I'm not saying you have to love it. I would love for you to be able to say, well, hello, anxiety. Here you are again. Let's do this together. I'm just taking the lead. That's what I'd love for you to be able to do. Knowing that struggling amplifies anxiety, and it also takes your attention off your values, whereby you can really move forward and do the things that are important to you. I think that's a really powerful understanding. When we're struggling, we're not able to really create and live a life that's rich in beautiful connections with our friends and family, experiences, building a life that's full of meaning and purpose. And these are the ways that we can move forward with anxiety when we feel supported with the skills and the strategies that I really love to share here on the podcast. My hope for you is that you are developing an understanding of what your values are, that you have perhaps visited a list of values and highlighted the ones that really stand out for you because you can choose your values. And I encourage you to revisit that on occasion because they can change over time. Knowing your values and using them as a compass to help really guide you in a direction and set your goals along the way. You can set the tiniest goal, and that will be in the direction of that value. You can't cross a value off a list. You can cross a goal off a list, but a value is your guiding light, your North Star. I'd really love for you to know and understand your values and to be able to return to values guided choices, especially when things feel challenging with your anxiety. We know that when we do those things that matter to us and we bring our anxiety along with us, we can actually start to really open up possibilities and open up our world in a way that's so enriching. Whereas the opposite, which is waiting for anxiety to go, waiting for all the ducks to be in a row. I like to say I'm lucky if my ducks are in the same pond, never in a row. Then when we wait for those things, which I did for a long time, I must admit, then we miss out on doing the things that really are important to us. And we have a finite amount of time to do the things that matter. So ask yourself, if you're waiting, what are you waiting for? Can you identify what's important? Can you start moving in that direction? One of the things that I really want you to know is that when you are listening to this podcast, because I am so passionate about and trained in a particular therapy called acceptance and commitment therapy, it's a behavioral therapy. And I combine that with my studies in physiology and exercise science and physiology. I combine that with my training in applied positive psychology and education. I really just do want to bring all of that together with my own personal experiences of living with an anxiety disorder to support you to develop psychological flexibility. Now, if you think about physical flexibility for a moment, the more flexible we are, the more we're able to move and flow with what life throws at us. And psychological flexibility is no different. There are 6 particular aspects of psychological flexibility, all woven through this podcast in lots of different ways. I'm going to talk about each one of them momentarily for you, just to bring them more to the forefront of your attention. So, in no particular order, one of the aspects of psychological flexibility is acceptance. Episode 1 that I recorded with Carly Taylor was a beautiful way to set the tone for this podcast. Acceptance, part of acceptance and commitment therapy, which we call ACT, is really powerful. It doesn't mean we invite feeling discomfort or pain or having difficult times, having really strong feelings of anxiety. We're not inviting it. It's not about loving it and wanting it. It's about recognizing that it is a part of life. It's completely normal for everybody. Some of us struggle with it more than others. But developing this willingness to notice it, observe it, sit with it, be okay with it, it enables us to let go of that rope, dropping the struggle. And that frees us up to be able to put more of our energy and attention into creating a life that we absolutely love most of the time. We're always going to have ups and downs. Another aspect of psychological flexibility is present moment awareness. It's important to know that we do mind wander a lot, and mind wandering actually plays a really vital role in helping us solve problems, make connections, in helping us to be more creative. And we need a little bit more white space. In fact, probably a lot more white space in our lives where we're not particularly doing anything. We're not drinking from the fire hose of information that's so readily available to us. So we have mind wandering where we might be daydreaming, and you may have experience of something really important just clicking for you when you least expect it and when you're not focusing on it. That's important. But present moment awareness is an aspect of psychological flexibility, and we can train this through mindfulness and meditation. Being able to bring our attention back into the present moment enables us to more mindfully choose what we do in the face of our challenges. It's a really important part of being psychologically flexible. Another aspect is the observing self. This is the part of us that can notice what it is that we're doing and thinking. And so earlier on in the podcast, I recorded an episode around metacognition, being able to observe what it is that you're thinking. So often we get swept away in our thoughts and they can take us to dark places. When we're able to observe that we are having a thought and notice and take a step back from that and use another aspect of psychological flexibility called diffusion, that enables us to put that space between us and what we're thinking, which really helps us to get more perspective and be able to then return our attention once we've diffused. Fusion meaning sort of connection, diffusion meaning separation. Once we've diffused from those really overwhelming thoughts and worries and fears, then we're in a better position to be able to come back into our body and engage in what we can do in that present moment that's in line with our values. Which leads me to values, which is the fifth in the six aspects of psychological flexibility. Living a life guided by our values is a way that we can make sure that we are moving in the directions that are really important to us. It's so easy for time to pass us by so quickly. It's September when I'm recording this, in September in 2022. And so many people are saying, where did the year go? It feels like we kind of just had Easter. We know that the older we get, the more time seems to pass us by faster, even though the clocks are the same, no matter how old you are. It's just that perception. And so values are important so that we can know that the actions that we're taking day to day in our families, in our professional lives, with our friends, with our hobbies, and with the things that we love to do, the actions that we're taking are taking us in a valued direction. And that's about what lights you up. It's about living a life on purpose, with passion. And we can look up those lists of values and start to choose and identify what it is that's important to us. Pretty sure I did a whole episode on that as well. And the last aspect in psychological flexibility is about committed action. It's about taking action in line with our values. And part of this requires us to make room for all the stuff that's going to come up when we are pursuing something that's really important to us. But our mind might have something to say about whether or not it wants us to proceed. So it's been really important for me to bring this podcast to you and your family, and to educators and to the world. We have a global audience, which is really brilliant. And yet I had an idea. I wanted to make a difference. I wanted to share so much of what I know, and all of what I know really, and I know of and am connected with so many incredible experts who have so much knowledge and expertise to share with you as well. I really wanted to bring that into a forum where it's free and it's easy to access. Yet my mind understood that by being behind a microphone and recording myself and putting it out there, you open yourself up to criticism, you open yourself up to comparison, and you open yourself up to judgment. And I obviously had a part of my brain that was saying to me, don't do it, and telling me all the reasons why I should just pull back. Instead, knowing how important it was to me, and knowing that anxiety genuinely shows up around the things we care about, I knew that I needed to maintain forward momentum. And so I did Seth Godin's podcasting course. I connected with other podcasters. I read about podcasting. I had conversations with people who had experience in this field. So I did a lot of the information gathering, which could be interpreted as a bit of procrastination, which is a symptom of anxiety. But I knew that ultimately I would record my voice, I would release episode 1, and I would continue to commit to supporting you in the way that I have for a year, each and every week. And so When we have committed action, it's about knowing what's important and making room for the thoughts, the feelings, the sensations, and that are going to stand in our way, that might try to derail us. You might feel really strongly about doing a 6 o'clock class at the gym every day, and yet making room for the discomfort of that alarm going off, for the cold that you might experience when you set foot out of bed, for the thoughts that will be just hit stop and go back to sleep. Uh, Making room for those and taking those steps in that valued direction, that's how we step forward, move forward, and do the things that are really important to us over our lives. And so they are the 6 aspects of psychological flexibility that I have been really loving bringing to you in lots of different ways over the last 12 months of the podcast. My hope for you is that you feel like you have a really good understanding and that your understanding of your anxiety and that of the people you love is expanding with each and every week. I hope you feel understood. I hope you feel cared for. And I really hope you feel empowered. I live with anxiety every single day. I know what it's like to be undiagnosed and to not understand. I know what it's like to go through the journey of trying to understand and connect with the right help and trying medication and going off medication, going back on medication. I've been through most of what anybody will go through when they live with an anxiety disorder. And so my hope is that as I continue to share openly with vulnerability, that you feel connected to this community, this beautiful community of listeners who write to me and have rated the podcast and shared beautiful emails and messages. And it's just, I read every one and I'm so grateful. Thank you. We have a beautiful community here, and my hope is that you feel understood, that you feel like that you are developing your understanding, you feel cared for, supported, loved, and really connected to this community, and that you over time can, like me, take steps day by day, week by week, month by month, year by year to thrive with anxiety. Bring it along for the ride. Let's stop waiting for it to go. It's not going anywhere. You're going to put it in the back seat. You're going to dial it down. You're going to move it to its rightful place. And let's continue to move forward and do what matters. Thank you for your time. Thank you for 12 months of podcasting love. I'm so very grateful. I'm saying this with my hand on my heart, and I look forward to being back with you again next week for another weekly episode of, well, hello, anxiety. Take care, won't you? And I'll see you soon. Bye. Thank you so much for joining me for this week's episode. If you enjoyed it, please subscribe and leave a review. To keep the conversation going, I'd love you to join me over on Instagram. You'll find me at Dr Jodi Richardson. Also, if you'd like a copy of my free 5-day mini email course, Calm Your Anxious Brain, then jump over to my website, drjodirichardson.com, and you can sign up down the bottom. I've really enjoyed having your company. Thanks so much. See you next time.